With billions of us on social media, that tiny little square image right next to your name has become one of the most powerful statements you can make. It really is your digital handshake, your very first impression. And we spend a surprising amount of time picking the absolute perfect shot. But what are we actually telling the world?
Okay, so let's really dive into this. We're going to do a little personal audit of our online selves. Because let's be honest, that picture isn't just a picture, is it? It's a signal, one that you carefully chose, and it's packed with all these psychological cues about who you are. So, what's the story your profile is telling?
A couple of researchers, Alyss Hudson and Jonathan Gore, they call it a photobiography, and I just love that term. They argue it's a direct measure of your self-concept. It's this visual declaration that's based on who you surround yourself with and the kinds of places you choose to be. It's literally the story of you, but told in a single frame.
And listen, this isn't just some pop psychology guesswork. The insights we're about to get into are grounded in massive, massive studies. One from the University of Pennsylvania analyzed over 700 million words from Facebook messages. It's huge. This lets them use what they call an open vocabulary approach, which basically means they let the data itself reveal the patterns. So what we're about to explore isn't just theory, it's backed by some serious data.
Okay, so to make sense of all this, we need a framework, right? And in the world of psychology, the absolute gold standard is the Big Five personality model. So we're going to use these 5 traits as our lens to decode the hidden language of our profile pictures.
First up is extroversion. This is the one we usually think of when we talk about sociability and energy. Are you the life of the party? Do you just thrive in social situations and bring a ton of enthusiasm? Well, that's extroversion at play.
So, what does an extrovert's photobiography actually look like? Well, you'll often see the most colorful pictures of all the traits. We're talking big grins, groups of people, a lot of action. But here's the interesting twist. The photos also tend to be of a lower aesthetic quality. They're a bit more blurry, a little less composed. It seems like it's more about capturing that vibrant moment than it is about getting the perfect shot.
Next, we have agreeableness. You can think of this as the team player trait. It's all about cooperation, kindness, and just generally being cheerful. These are the people who really prioritize getting along with others and keeping those relationships positive.
So kind of like extroverts, agreeable people love colorful, happy photos, usually with friends or family. You're going to see a lot of grinning and laughing. And again, the photos are often a little blurry or not super sharp because the focus is all on that positive social connection, not on the technical perfection of the photo.
All right, now for the planners and the goal setters. Conscientiousness. This is the trait for organized minds, and it reflects self-discipline and a really strong sense of purpose.
Okay, this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. Conscientious people's photos often show them smiling, but researchers think this is probably because they're just conforming to the social expectation of what a profile picture should look like. And that is a brilliant illustration of the trait itself. They follow the rules. They're also more likely to be alone in the photo, to be wearing glasses, and even to appear a little older than they actually are.
Fourth on our list is openness to experience. This is all about curiosity, creativity, and a love for variety and new things. These are your artistic, your intellectual, and your unconventional types. So, as you might guess, people who are high in openness choose photos that are just, well, they're better. They've got higher contrast, better saturation, they're just more aesthetically pleasing. They tend to avoid those simple, smiling group shots and instead go for something more artistic or unconventional. For them, the photo itself is a form of self-expression.
And finally, we have neuroticism. Now, this trait reflects a tendency to experience more negative emotions. These individuals can be more anxious, maybe a bit more pessimistic, and sometimes they struggle with lower self-esteem.
So, the crucial point here is what's not in the picture. People who score high in neuroticism are more likely to use an object instead of their own face. And if they do show their face, the expression is often neutral or blank. The images are less colorful, and you typically won't see them with other people. It's a much more reserved and sometimes even indirect way of presenting yourself. But hold on. Just when you think you've got it all figured out, the research adds a whole new layer of complexity. It turns out these patterns are not one size fits all. The meaning behind a photo can change, and change significantly based on gender. Okay, so take a picture of just yourself, what researchers call a self-only photo. The meaning of that choice can be completely different for men and women. For men, having more solo pics is positively correlated with openness, with creativity. But for women, it's negatively correlated with agreeableness. So the exact same choice, a solo picture, signals creativity in men, but according to this data, it could signal lower interpersonal warmth in women. Wild, right?
But it's not just the content of the photo that matters. Our behavior around it also sends a really powerful signal. For example, how often do you feel that itch, that need to change your picture?
According to psychological analysis, frequently changing your profile picture is highly correlated with neuroticism, with insecurity, and with something called a fluctuating self-concept. The thinking is, a stable identity doesn't really need constant updates or approval. This kind of behavior suggests a digital search for an identity, almost like trying on different personas, hoping one of them will finally fit.
And this really brings us to the ultimate question at the heart of all of this online self-presentation. Are we showing the world who we truly are, or are we performing a very carefully constructed version of who we want to be? Researchers have framed this whole debate with two main ideas. First is the extended real-life hypothesis, which argues that our profiles are pretty authentic reflections of our actual personalities. Then on the other side, you've got the idealized virtual identity hypothesis. This one suggests the strategic performances, showcasing a polished, idealized self. And the truth is, the research is mixed. Some studies find strong evidence for authenticity, while others really point to that careful curation of an ideal image.
So, as we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. Go take a look at your own profile picture. Are you broadcasting your real, authentic self for the whole world to see? Or are you maybe the director of a very specific performance, showing everyone the character you most want to be? The answer, just like your personality, is probably a lot more complex than you think.